Welcome to the Long Jawn Podcast, episode 11, The Great Sports Meltdown. This show is a joint podcast with your host, Benjamin Kamperman from the Camper Report. So you can find this episode on his YouTube channel and NFL schedule breakdown. Again, this is a joint stream, and I am incredibly excited to welcome Benjamin Kamperman from the Camper Report onto the show. How are you doing? And tell us all about yourself and where we can find your videos.
I'm excited to come on. It's an honor, obviously, and then obviously this is. Wait a second. Shouldn't we be? Hold on. I feel like we change our boxes around because no.
Oh yeah,
change our boxes around because no, it's fine. It's fine. I was just okay. Hold on. Let me. I know how to do this. There we go.
You do. There you go.
Anyways. This show is going off the rails already, everyone. I'm already coughing on my chips that I was eating before this to quickly get some carbs to fill me up. But guys, welcome to the show, and I'm excited to come on. You can find me at the Camper Report on YouTube. Camper part is with a K. And for every one of my guests on watching from the Camper Report, go check out the Long Jawn Podcast, guys. New starting channel, and he needs all your guys' support. And yeah, go check it out.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor having you on the show again as we dive into a evening of a lot of fun and a lot of discussion over, we sort of had this little bit of a lull period in the sports while teams were battling away in the playoffs in the NBA. And then, of course, in the NFL, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. And now all of a sudden there's a lot to talk about as we dive into topic number one, which is an NBA playoff reaction. So, here, let's see if it pops up on screen. Oh, come on. There we go.
Yeah.
There you go. So topic number one, the NBA playoff reaction. I figured we would both first get kicked off, start talking about the impending Western and Eastern Conference Finals matchups. If you had told me at the beginning of the playoffs that the Nuggets and the Lakers would be playing each other, I sort of would laugh in a rematch for the 2020 Conference Finals rematch in the bubble. We now get to see them in front of fans. Really, really odd. I knew that the Nuggets had a chance to represent the Western Conference Finals, but until seeing some of the depth the Lakers had, I'm shocked. I'll let you kick this one off and give your initial reactions, and then I'll chime in on here. But what are your thoughts on this, and did you expect it in the really, first of all, beginning in the playoffs? I mean, this regular season, but also into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I follow the NBA, but for everyone who's watching, this is definitely different because I haven't posted any NBA content lately, but we're doing it kind of like the NBA is going to be, it's popping right now. So it's we're supposed to be talking about it because that's the main thing on the national news right now. But the Lakers, it's interesting because it's the third time they've met each other. Sorry. For the Celtics and Heat, it's the third time they met each other in 4 years in the Eastern Conference Finals, which is crazy to me because it's like Jimmy Butler, it's like this guy turns on a whole nother gear in the playoffs. And I mean, really, it's just two playing teams. The Lakers and the Heat both made the conference finals. And it really just shows to me you can't count either of these teams out because as long as you have two great players in Jimmy Butler and LeBron James, it is never over.
Exactly.
I just think that the big thing with the Nuggets and the Lakers, the matchup, the key is Nikola Jokic and Anthony Davis. The thing that when the Lakers beat the Nuggets back in the bubble year, they had Dwight Howard versus Nikola Jokic. And Dwight Howard, he has length, he's very athletic, and he gave Nikola Jokic fits. It kind of allowed Anthony Davis to, it opened up Anthony Davis to do what he wanted at power forward, and it allowed the Lakers, and it kind of let Anthony Davis save his energy for later on in the series. My concern with the Lakers is they don't really have another big man except that is really good, except from Anthony Davis. And so now he's going to have to be guarding Nikola Jokic on offense and still put up 20 to 25 points per night. Hats off to him because he's been doing that. And so now he's going to have more of a defensive role than he did in 2020. Which, I mean, that's a key, but I could see later on in the series him starting to wear down a little bit. I mean, you're playing 40 plus minutes every night, and now you're going to have to guard one of the best offensive players in the league.
And I think that's a good observation. I will say the one thing that I think that is really going to play into the Lakers' cards right now is Jokic has scored 53 points and they've still lost. And this has happened. He has scored an absurd amount of points for a center in more than one game during these playoffs, and they've still lost. I would say the interesting part about both of these teams is they've both defeated finalist favorites in the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. I would say the Golden State Warriors were less favorites, but after the Sacramento Kings playoff series, which was excellent, probably one of the most exciting ones of the tournament so far. I really thought, they had a chance. I really think experience is going to kick in here. I alluded to that in my weekly news sports report. The Lakers destroyed them 4-1 in the 2020 conference finals, which was a total different scenario. I'd sort of like to erase that in a way. The bubble year definitely counted, but it was different for every team and how they handled it. The biggest thing is I looked this up just out of curiosity because I know the Lakers. I didn't actually know this, but I did know the Lakers were, well represented in the Western Conference finals. They've actually been to the most amount of conference finals in the league. They have 23 total appearances, and the Nuggets just have 3 in 20 years. They have 5 total, but 3 in 20 years. Obviously,
the Lakers are tied for the most championships. So
yeah, and they have a rich history.
That makes sense.
So yeah, you're right. And it have a rich history, but I really think what it comes down to is experience and depth. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. When you have Schroeder, Hachimura, and Lonnie Walker, who have been playing a significant role in their team when they're not starters. So you're looking 8 deep. That's pretty impressive for 8 deep contributors for a Lakers team. The biggest question is, can they allow? What is their game plan going to be? Is it going to be let Nikola Jokic control the game but shut everything down, which has worked for other teams? I don't think that's a good strategy, but I know we don't want to harbor on this topic too much, but I really could see Lakers in 6 here. I don't know if Lakers does do it in 5. That would be a little shocking, but I sort of seeing 4-2. That's my reaction, and of course I am like 80%. I think the only wrong playoff matchup that I've guessed this year so far has been the 76ers, which we're going to get to here later. But yeah,
I mean, you get it's interesting because the Nuggets, with Murray, they have Jamal Murray. I mean, you're overlooking him here. He's averaged 20 points per game, and he had I think it was 26 last game.
Yeah, and he's played really well.
The thing is the thing that I think, we did a really good job at shutting down Clay and Steph. And our perimeter defenses, we're one of the best defenses in the league, perimeter defense wise. Actually, we're number 1 defensively. The thing where the Nuggets are going to get us is the Nuggets are going to get us in transition.
Yeah.
The thing is the Warriors are a better transition team than the Nuggets are, because the Nuggets with Nikola Jokic are not a that good transition team.
Everything's funneled
on the
through
floor.
him. And
he's not a very fast player. So that's the one weakness. Other than that, the Lakers defense is incredible. So
And if I had said, "Oh my gosh, the Kings are playing in the final," I would say it's a surefire they're going to beat them. And the reason why is because they beat a perimeter team in the Warriors. Now, of course, that would never have happened for the Nuggets. I mean, the Lakers to play the Warriors and the Kings. But what I'm saying is, I don't think. I don't know if we've really seen the Lakers play a team like the Nuggets
Oh,
in a
yeah.
while, and so it'll be interesting to see because if they guard from the perimeter and they play good perimeter defense, do you just funnel it through Nikola Jokic and you just basically control the paint? So that's going back to what your initial statement was. Can Anthony Davis man up on Jokic, or is there going to be another big person that the Lakers can throw in there? Maybe
Yeah.
Hachimura. I don't think so, but that's a
Well,
possibility.
and you look, it's just the late, like LeBron James. I saw somebody the other day say LeBron James has never, really rarely in his career goes 100%.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, he went close to that with the Warriors, 30 points. But I mean, and he's not the scoring prowess, but I think on any given night, if he really turned it
Yeah.
up, he could still get 40.
Oh yeah,
I just
all
think he's
about
that
that.
good. And
Yep.
so I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be close. I think the Lakers, this is a lot different of a Nuggets team. I'm not too tuned into them a lot, but they're deep. They made Kevin Durant look like a jump
Yeah.
shooter who really wasn't. I mean, that was a good Suns team, which not a
Yep.
lot of depth, but they really controlled Kevin
Yeah.
Durant. They controlled Devin Booker, so it should be an exciting
It'll be.
matchup.
And it's a good segue into the Heats versus Celtics.
Yeah,
This is also another shocker. I mean, I know, a lot of Bucks fans are going to say this. I'm not going to stick with the Bucks fans on saying this. I first of all want to say that the fact that Spoelstra was not included in the Coach of the Year conversation, I think is ludicrous. Because if I
yeah,
look at this Heat team, and I'm not trying to devalue the Heat because the Heat are obviously in the Eastern Conference Finals, but outside of Jimmy Butler, there's not a whole lot of like, oh my gosh, that's a star-studded team, and yet they find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals. And you could say, if you were to play devil's advocate, you could say that they got some of the easiest. Excuse me, they got some of the easiest, maybe matchup per se. Um,
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
I think that basically where they're running into is they play the Heat first play the Bucks, and it's like, well, not well, yeah, they first play the Bucks, and it's like, do you was Giannis's injury truly that much of a reason why they won? And then they go on
right.
and they get semi lucky, I guess, and play the Knicks, and that game goes to 6 games. Um, I don't know if I can fully say that the Heat deserve to be there. I mean, of course, if you win these series, you do. But the interesting part that I sort of forgot about is 3 times in 4 years the Celtics and the Heat have faced each other. And that alone should show how decorated both of these franchises are. The real question is if you look at who's won the last couple of years, neither the Heat or the Celtics have
Yeah,
done anything. So like it's like, okay, you go to the playoffs, but you go to the finals, but you don't win anything. So this is, I really think, a very, very big turning point, and especially for the Celtics, because this could be the last year we see Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum together. Um,
yeah,
the way I look at this right now is Boston's trying to right their wrongs from last year's meltdown in the finals. Miami is literally not supposed to be there if you asked any analyst as an 8th seed team.
yeah,
And now these two teams, which are really familiar with each other, get to face each other, and the Heat should have, in a way, somewhat of maybe not an advantage, but a leg up in the fact that Boston only won 2 of 4 games in
yeah,
at home. And that's a weakness right there because if this series goes to game 7, there is no reason why the Heat should ever be afraid about beating the Celtics because a 76ers team, which we're going to get to here
yeah,
shortly, literally embarrassed them at home. So without Joel Embiid one of the times. And so yeah, that's sort of my take on this series. Like I said, I have the Lakers beating the Nuggets in 6 games. I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say I really think Jimmy Butler is going to go out on a tear. I think this defense is going to be able to give and I know it's a shocker because they're underdogs, but I think I'm saying Heat Celtics in 7. I don't think this game goes to 6. I think it's going to be a very, very tight game. If I'm wrong, it's one of those things that this
Yeah.
sounds really oxymoron, but I could see this either being a Boston Celtics sweep of the Heat or a 7-game series. And the only reason why I say that is because if we see the Celtics team that literally shoots 50% from the three, I don't know if the Heat can stop that. But then I've also seen a Celtics team in both series, both the Hawks and the 76er series, where, to be completely honest with you, they sucked. They weren't even up. They were a borderline playoff team.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
I
my
mean,
view on this. But yeah,
Gabe Vincent really has I mean, you say that he's the only star, but I mean, Gabe Vincent, what they do in the pick and roll off of
yeah,
Bam Adebayo is really
it's true.
impressive. I mean, going
Yep,
back, I watched the Heat versus Knicks, some of their highlights there, and what they're doing with Gabe Vincent kind of opens up some things
yep.
for Jimmy Butler. And if
And
Gabe Vincent kind of keeps running the floor, then whenever Jimmy Butler comes out, you can kind of rely on him to run things from that end. And then you have Bam Adebayo averaging about 20 points in this playoffs.
yeah,
And
he's playing
I'm
good.
just not like, it's a mystery to me how they were an 8 seed, which they don't have
Yeah,
a lot of depth, and they're going to have to make some type of moves. But you're also forgetting about Kyle Lowry, who
it's true.
is
And
older, but I don't know. He's still not a solid player there, but it's just like the Celtics, if they're gonna rely on Jason Tatum to bail them out with 50-point games all the time, there's
yep,
no way that's gonna happen. And my concern is like Bam Adebayo, Robert Williams, the big key matchup. I think it's Robert Williams, is that their center's name, versus Bam Adebayo.
yep. That's going to be a very
That
good. Yeah, that's
well,
going to
and
be a
here's
big.
my thing, and it's the same thing with Anthony Davis. If Bam Adebayo, let me see here. So when they set a screen up top and with Jimmy Butler, sorry, with Jason Tatum, let's say, and they
Yep,
set a screen up top with Jason Tatum and Bam Adebayo comes to help, and he helps high. It's called
yeah,
help. He doesn't sag off of the Jimmy Butler and let him shoot the three, but he tries to defend Jimmy Butler. Sorry, Jason Tatum.
yep,
And then that's going to give up a pick and roll
yep.
situation where they can dump it off to Robert Williams down low for a dunk.
Or he just shoots it, and that's what.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to get to this just in a second. I keep
So it's
alluding
kind
to
of a double loss. That's the
exactly.
biggest thing. That's what the
And
Lakers had with Steph Curry.
of course, this is the issue. Is
If he
that's
sags
exactly
off the
what the
screen.
Celtics
Yeah.
did with Embiid in last game. Embiid somehow kept getting on Tatum because of these, pick and rolls, and Tatum didn't even feed the ball. He
Right.
just shot it, and he was nailing threes. But the thing is, this is also a player who literally had in like 3 straight games 0 to 2 points before half. And so if
Right.
the Heat get one of those Tatums one game, I don't see that. I think this team puts away the Celtics because that's the one issue that I had with the 76ers is what in the world were you doing? So do you
Yeah.
want to segue into topic number 2?
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's a
real
good
quick, guys, let us know who you have picking the Nuggets and the Lakers. This is obviously, I know my channel doesn't usually do NBA, but a lot of you guys are NBA fans. Let us know who's going to win the Nuggets Lakers series and the Heat versus Celtics series. I'm saying Nuggets Lakers. I'm saying same as you, Lakers in 6. And then what's your real quick predictions for the Heat Celtics series now that we've kind of broken it down a little bit?
Yeah, Heat Celtics. I have this game. I have the Heat winning in 7. I'm sort of maybe part of it is a little biased in the hopes that they destroy the Celtics because I can't stand the
I'm going to
Boston
say
Celtics.
Celtics win it. They just have too much depth, and
It's true.
the fact that the Heat have made it here is just, I don't
Is a feat of
even
excellence.
really
No one would
know.
complain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on to topic number 2, do the 76ers need a roster overhaul? My notes are saying here, and of course, check out my weekly news sports report on Instagram at the Long Jawn Podcast. To put it lightly, the Sixers were embarrassed yesterday by the Boston Celtics, even though it was in the Celtics stadium. I personally watched more than 3/4 of this game. I missed the first early part because of Mother's Day lunch stuff, but that was probably one of the worst playoff performances I've witnessed in a while by the Sixers. And the reason why is because we were up by 9 points at one point, and we at one point in the game were losing by 30.
Right.
The crazy part about it is just like 6 days ago, the Sixers had just come off of beating the Celtics in a Game 5 overtime thriller. Obviously, they ended up bringing the game back to Game 6 at their own home stadium. And despite, like I just alluded to, Jason Tatum being absolute trash in the first half of Game 6, the Sixers were embarrassed because in the last 2 minutes, Jason Tatum outscored the Sixers team 12-3. That's a problem right there. And
Yeah.
as a Sixers fan, I'm livid because there is no reason why Jason Tatum should be outscoring the entire Sixers team. And when that happened, part of me was like, oh, back to the drawing board, Game 7. And part of me was like, no, we are losing Game 7 because you can't let a player who was 0 for 10, I believe, at halftime, then all of a sudden go off in the fourth quarter and control the game. But that's who Jason Tatum is. And the 76ers front office has a lot of decisions to make. And I'll let you answer some, give me your opinion on whether they need a roster overhaul. But then I want to throw some stuff at you that's you're probably going to like laugh as a Lakers fan that we completely blew it on, but I'll let you sort of chime in. What do you think need to do to become relevant? Because at this point, they've been a failure of a franchise. And I'm laying into them as a diehard 76ers fan. Their changes need to be made because they're at a tipping point right now where they're either wasting Embiid's career or they need to go in a different direction than Embiid. And dare I say that they should do that? I'm not alluding to that. I'm saying they've got to make changes because if they want to be relevant, they have not made an Eastern Conference Finals in over 22 years. That's a problem. So,
yep. I would say, they can't really trade Harden again. And that the thing with him is it's like, well, and also, I mean, his contract is fully guaranteed. Yeah. His cap hit is 33 million guaranteed out of, I think this year it was 33 million.
It's like avoidable. I don't know if it's avoidable contract.
I think you void it and get it off the books personally. I don't want, here's the thing with James Harden. He's not a good defender. He's a negative defender.
Yeah.
His scoring isn't all that good. And yes, he's good at assists, but Tyrese Maxey there, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just, this is more something that for you, here's the thing. I know, I don't think you say blow it up with Joel Embiid.
No.
But I will say that maybe, nobody's going to really offer a ton for Harden, and also his contract is about to run out anyways. But maybe the only other guy that I could think of that is going to be really valuable and that you could get some picks is the young talent of Tyrese Maxey.
Which I would.
But the thing is that would be such a stupid move to trade
because he's potentially turning into one of the better players.
Maybe Tobias Harris. I mean,
and that's the difficult part is I would have been for trading Tobias Harris prior, but he played a good series in the playoffs. Like he played of the 11 games that the 76ers played this year in the playoffs. I would say he had 9 good games, maybe 8 if you're pessimistic. But this is the biggest thing. Says I personally would like to see them blow it up. I'd like to see them get rid of Harden. I'd like to see them get rid of Harris. I'd like to see them stick with PJ Tucker, Maxey, and Embiid, and try to insert another 2 shooters into that lineup. Because I like D'Anthony Melton and Daniel House as depth, but they're not really quite starter materials. But just to put you in, and I hate to be raking the 76ers through the coals, but I'm still.
Yeah, but okay, real quick, sorry to cut you off, but before you get onto it, I mean, Tobias Harris, his stats weren't that great. I mean, it was game 6 versus Boston. He was 1 for 7.
Well, he doesn't get a lot of shots, but he also, in the first 4 games, he was. Okay, maybe I would say 8 games out of
game
11.
5. He was 3 for 10. Game 4 he was 3 for 10. Game 5 he was 7 for 10. He kind of goes up and down. It's like
I'm not giving him.
I don't think he would also get you guys a ton of
no. And when I mean blow it up, he's a free agent next year. You really would just be shipping him off to a team and probably actually losing picks just to get the money off the books because he's still making a lot of money this year. I'm not trying to use him as an excuse, saying that he is the only one who played good. He had his own faults. But, of course, the 76ers front office, here's a couple of
keep going. I was just pulling up that comment.
Here's a couple of just failures that the front office has made. Of course, they decided to trade. They decided to send Jimmy Butler to the Miami. They then went ahead and gave Harris a max extension, which is ridiculous. Another example, they traded Drew Holiday for Nerlens Noel back in the day. They passed on Giannis and CJ McCollum. Of course, I know every other team did besides their teams, but still, these are a few things. They took Jahlil Okafor over Devin Booker. They took Markelle Fultz over De'Aaron Fox and Jason Tatum. They drafted Mikal Bridges and then proceeded to trade him on draft night for Zaire Smith, who hasn't been in the NBA for 2 years. These are the issues. Like, I know it's different front office. I know there's been different general managers. But what I'm saying is, like, the 76ers over the last decade, if you were to take them and put it in a highlight, they would be marred by a team of failures. And it's painful to say this as the 76ers fan, but they've not done anything to give me confidence that this is going to change. So now the question is, do you fire Doc Rivers or do you give him a chance to redeem himself? What key pieces do you think that the 76ers need to bring in to surround Embiid and presumably Maxey? And then finally, do you handle the James Harden contract by extending him or do you let him walk? And those are three really big questions. And if they can't answer them soon, I don't know if the 76ers can even make it back to the playoffs next year, because if they lose Harden and Tobias Harris and they do a poor job of surrounding Embiid, I mean, is this team a playoff caliber team? Probably playoff caliber, but I doubt it's anything more than that. So.
I would fire Doc Rivers. No offense, but I mean, he's the one who brought in James Harden. He's been there. I mean, you saw what happened to Monty Williams on the Sun a few days. You saw that, right? He got fired.
The Suns coach
got fired, which I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if
I don't really know if I would have done that. He's been a pretty good coach for the Suns lately, but I mean,
look at
Doc Rivers hasn't made it to a finals like Monty Williams has been, so I would fire him.
Greg, is it Burkhalter, or I can't think of his name, the Bucks coach.
Budenholzer.
He gets fired like less than 3 years after winning the finals. Like, the NBA is ruthless. And I'm sorry, I said this to someone and I almost got sick saying this. But I'm at this point right now as a 76ers fan. And I know this sounds desperate. I'm not trying to fall apart, but I'm at this point as a 76ers fan where I honestly think Brett Brown was a better coach than Doc Rivers. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but
yeah,
Brett Brown made me want to pull my hair out too, and I didn't like him.
Damn, shit. That's crazy, bro. Nobody would actually say that.
Are going to come after me. But what I'm telling you right now, what has Brett Brown done? I mean, what has Doc Rivers done that Brett Brown didn't? None of them have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. None of them have been able to win I know that's oxymoron because I just said this, but none of them won a second round of the playoffs. Okay, and so Doc Rivers now, I mean, I just that's my frustration on that. So I would say, we can end this topic off, and I can fully say that very disappointed as a 76ers fan. I would like to see them blow it up in a way, but they also can make this work if they make the right moves this year. And I really think they can go on another run next year. They just have to make sure they've got to figure out the Harden situation and whether to keep Doc Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who we'll see as the season ends. We'll see who they start to look, because I think really you guys need to trade for somebody. I don't think it goes through the draft. I don't know. I don't think you guys get a guy through the draft. So you'd have to trade somebody for somebody. I mean, hey, you'll work it out. The 76ers aren't shy of being aggressive. I mean, look at James Harden.
And look at the Lakers. They like literally don't have any first round picks, but they're now in the Western Conference Finals because they made good trades and they brought in the right players now.
We don't have a first round pick till 2029.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there you go. Yeah. Well, but I mean, here's the deal. If they go out and they win the championship, no one looks at that team and goes, "Oh my God, you don't have a first round pick for another 6 years." Like, that's the NBA for you. Like, if all of this takes, and it's the same thing with the NFL, if you push all your chips into one basket and it works like it did for the Los Angeles Rams, not a lot of Rams fans are complaining. But yeah. Moving on, switching subjects to really the crux of this show. Excited to hear your thoughts on topic number 3, the NFL season schedule matchups. And I'll let you kick this off. What are some matchups that you're excited to see and why?
Yeah, I mean, the ones I'm kind of confused about is like, well, okay, let's get to some of the exciting ones. Week 4, Jets, Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be
Wonderful.
an incredible, and I can get why they scheduled it earlier, because that game is going to be, you don't want either quarterback to, hold on, I have something in my throat. You don't want a quarterback to you don't want to quarterback those quarterbacks, either one of those guys, to get injured. As the
Yeah,
season goes on, it's likely that one of those guys might be. And
sure.
so I could see why they did it week 4. Both teams are probably going to be firing on all cylinders. The ones that were kind of like confusing to me is like the Thursday night, the opening week Thursday night game was a little
Yeah,
interesting. Lions versus Chiefs.
terrible move.
But if you look at the rest of the Thursday night schedule, it's really not that good. Vikings versus Eagles, Giants versus Niners. That's pretty good. Lions versus Packers, Bears, Commanders. And then the other thing that doesn't make sense to me is the New Orleans Saints and Washington Commanders are both the two teams that have the most Thursday night games. So it's almost like the NFL said, we're trying to spare as many good teams from Thursday night as possible.
I think is the whole issue. Like, if we're trying to make money off of Thursday night games, but make them interesting. I was blown away.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Detroit Lions are a bad team, but I was blown away of all the matchups that the Chiefs could play, because we knew the Chiefs were playing. After all the matchups the Chiefs could play, they picked the Detroit Lions. This is a team that's going to be without Jameson Williams. They're actually without 3 receivers. I think they had lost 3 receivers to this whole gambling scandal. Like, I don't know if I would, I don't know. Like, I very much think that there's a real chance that the Lions are the best team in the NFC North, but I don't think we're going to start seeing that till like week 6, week 7. I could see this game literally being like 45-17. And I'm not trying to disrespect the Lions, but it's very odd. There was the Chiefs Bengals, Chiefs Bills, I believe, Eagles Chiefs. Like, there's a lot of games I feel like would have been much more enticing. One thing
but I think sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said. They're not going to put maybe the best games early on, but then they could put some best games early on to avoid injuries.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think the Eagles Chiefs, I mean, that was in a week 11 game. I think week that 10 is going to be more meaningful because you're getting later in the year.
It's true. And I'm not trying to be an overzealous fan, but I look at their schedule right now, and they really could be 8-1 or 7-2 going into that game, because the only teams that I am thinking may give the Eagles a run for their money would be maybe the Jets, and that's still early on in the season, maybe the Cowboys, and maybe the Dolphins. So, I mean, if you're rolling into week 10 and you're 8-1 or 7-2, you're pretty ecstatic as a fan, because that's boding pretty well for your chances. That's going to be a big one for seed matchups, because I do believe the Chiefs are playing other teams that the Eagles are betting like that are playing well, and so that's a big one. The one game that I thought was really fascinating, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, is the Bengals Chiefs week 17. I know we very rarely ever see a team rest their starters both weeks, but I think this much pretty much confirms that won't happen, because more than likely, if I am right now sitting and the season started today, the Bengals and the Chiefs would be among my 3 or 4 teams that would be in the top 2 in the championship game. I think that was a really good move. I also like the move that the Eagles waited, and that the schedule makers waited for the 49ers to play the Eagles until week 12, because by this time I think the 49ers will have some sort of a quarterback situation figured out. If they don't, that's on them.
I mean, let me tell you, I think that 49ers-Eagles game is going to get flexed, because I look,
it's 425.
The game, it's a 1:25 Pacific time zone, and it's a 4:25 Eastern time zone. And the thing is like, I had it here real quick. Okay, so the week 13, that Sunday night game is Packers versus Chiefs the same week. And so I was thinking, okay, could it be flexed to Sunday night? I think it will. I mean, if the Packers are a bad team, as we all think they will be, then I would expect the 49ers Eagles game to
And
go to Sunday night.
here's the
So
caveat to that. And of course, I'm not trying to rub the salt in the wound, but I thought it was a little lame that Shanahan was like, I like this because we feel like we weren't well represented. And I was like, look, every 49ers fan and every 49ers player deserves to be upset that they didn't get to have a chance to play with a quarterback. But of all the people that can't be upset, it's Shanahan because he's the one who decided to put a tight end blocking the
yeah,
almost the league's leader in sacks last year in
Hassan Reddick,
Reddick.
yeah.
Like, that's on you, buddy. Like, every fan and every player can be upset about it, but Shanahan, that's your mistake. But I do like the idea that the 49ers play the Eagles in a meaningful game because early on, there's a real chance the 49ers are still figuring out who their quarterback is. I don't think so, though. I agree with you. I tuned into your show last week when you were talking. I think the 49ers figure this quarterback situation out sooner rather than later and have a couple options on the table. So,
well, the 49ers don't have a primetime game till I think the first one's the Giants that they have.
Yeah.
So they're kind of preparing for the first, which is what I always thought it was going to be. Brock Purdy not coming back for 4 weeks. I think Trey Lance is going to secretly light it up. Real quick, what do you think of the international games? You know, you've got Dolphins versus Chiefs. It's not bad. Dolphins, Chiefs, that's not bad.
Exciting.
You've got
go back and play against his former team.
Yeah, that'll be the first time, although it sucks because it's not going to be an Arrowhead, which is what every Chiefs fan wants. But you obviously have, let's see, another good one. I had it written down here. I think the other one is like Bills versus, what was the other one? Do you remember here?
I'm going to look it up right here. I am very excited about the games in Germany. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, the Munich games. That's what the Bills versus
in Frankfurt. You've got Atlanta Falcons. Oops. You've got Atlanta Falcons versus, man, my computer's just totally going.
Here. I can hold on.
No, you're good. Atlanta Falcons versus the Jacksonville Jaguars in Wembley. You've got the Jacksonville Jaguars the next week versus the Bills, which is good. That'll be a cool game. And I think that'll actually have some playoff implications.
Yeah. Jaguars versus Bills. That's the
Ravens, Tennessee in Tottenham, Hotspur Stadium. Miami versus Kansas City in Frankfurt, Germany, which is going to be really, really cool. And then the Colts versus the Patriots, which will be, I mean, that's a rivalry there. That'll be an interesting game. That's the last game of this year.
I think there's really only two that stand out, though.
I really like the Jaguars,
Chiefs, and Jags, Bills. Sorry, go ahead.
But it's cool that I think the Jags could actually pose a better chance to beat the Bills because they're actually staying in the UK for over 2 weeks. And so that jet lag should have faded. And because they're not coming home. They're playing 2 straight games in England. And so in London, they're playing 2 straight games in London. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I thought that was a little unique. I've not seen that before. So yeah, cool stuff. Do you have any other games?
It is. Yeah, I mean, real quick, Thanksgiving. I mean, finally a good Thanksgiving Niners versus Seahawks there. I mean, the Thanksgiving games aren't bad. I think it's Lions, Cowboys. That won't be a bad game. So I'm looking forward to that one though, because sitting down, and you get a Niners Seahawks rivalry on Thanksgiving. That's exciting. Real quick though, the most primetime games, Jets, the 2 teams that are getting the most hype, Lions and the Jets. I think with the Lions, there's a lot of pressure coming into this next year.
There
it kind of reminds me. I said it on Out of Pocket Sports. It reminds me of the Browns in 2019. Let's hope that a team that didn't even make the playoffs, but everyone likes them a lot. They have that swagger about them. But Jets, Chiefs, Bills, Cowboys, and Chargers have the most prime time for now.
Yeah, that's so expected when it comes to the Cowboys and the Chiefs. But the Detroit, I didn't realize how good this Thanksgiving slate is. So you've got 12:30 p.m. Green Bay versus Detroit. Then you've got Washington versus Dallas at 4:30. And then you got San Francisco versus Seattle. So they went 3 really, really tough rivals. I like that a lot. That's actually a really good slate of games.
I'm going to be watching that. That's quite a bit of football that day.
That will be a lot of fun. But transitioning into topic number 4, This one is an interesting one. This sort of came out of the blue. Topic number 4 is reactions to the Zadarius Smith trade. When he got traded, I was like, wait, was he ever on the trading block? And I think there were some rumors, his contract and all that stuff. What they gave up for him was like next to nothing, like you had said when we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
In
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, kick it off, dude.
If I remember it off of the top of my head, it was the Browns get Zadarius Smith, 2025 6th round pick and a 2026 7th round pick, and the Vikings get a 2024 5th round pick and a 2025 5th round pick.
Yeah.
So Zadarius Smith, obviously 10 sack guy. I can look up his exact numbers when you're talking. I probably will look that up.
Well,
like how good he was. He's definitely kind of fallen a little bit. He had some 13 sack years or 15 sack years with the Packers, but still a great edge rusher. Nevertheless, great pass rusher. And it's just the Browns got a steal for this. And
they did.
Now the Vikings, I think the only reason why they did this move is because they saved like near $10 million, and they're like the Saints were a few years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, they're expected. I mean, if we want to cover another story, Dalvin Cook going to be probably either traded or cut, most likely cut,
because
post June
1st. Sign Jefferson.
Yeah, so they're kind of screwed. I mean, that team
it's bad.
Is going to be, they're going to be a dumpster fire this year.
I said this also on Out of Pocket Sports podcast and Tobacco Road Sports Radio, that I thought the Vikings had to score on this draft because I really have a very big feeling that they're going to fire their coach and potentially get rid of Kirk Cousins if it doesn't work. One thing to keep in mind, Cleveland was 28th in sacks last year with 34. To put that in perspective, the Eagles had double the Cleveland Browns sacked, more than double the Cleveland Browns sack total. Smith, not counting 2021 because of injury, has actually averaged 12 sacks over 3 years in 2019, 2020, and 2022. The great part about this is Garrett's going to draw the double teams, and that's opening up the door for Smith to have a potentially stellar year. And I think he could get back to a 15-plus sack season.
Right.
Not because he's one of the best edge rushers. I think he's still very talented and there's still fuel in the tank. But because you've got Myles Garrett opposite you, this is a great move by Cleveland. You've got to bolster that D-line. And, I guess if it's the Vikings, I don't know what they're thinking because this is a Vikings team that I don't feel like did enough on defense during the draft
No, they didn't.
They didn't. And now I'm like, their defense was so bad that they made the New York Giants look like a firepower offense. And then, of course, we all know how a week later that
New York Giants offense was one of the worst. Was not good last year.
The Eagles put them to shame in the playoffs, but look at how they looked against the Vikings. It was like a great team. Now, New York has bolstered their offense this year. Especially the addition of Darren Waller. I think he's still being paid too much, but yes, the addition of Darren Waller is very, very, very positive addition. But this was a really good trade, and I'll say, and I said this before a couple episodes ago when I was on the show by myself, talking about underrated signings. These are the type of signings that send a team to the playoffs and deep in the playoffs. Last year when the Eagles traded for James Bradbury, I didn't really think a whole lot of it. They ended up paying him $10 million a year, and he was one of the better cornerbacks last year. Great signing. The year they won the Super Bowl, they got Alshon Jeffrey, LeGarrette Blount. Those were great signings. There's some signings that the Chiefs made. Look at Kadarius Toney.
Yeah,
that was a signing that it wasn't some flashy first-round pick trade signing, but look at the Chiefs. Kadarius Toney ended up being big for them in the playoffs. So
on top of that, the Chiefs got Rashee Rice this year, who is from SMU, who is very really fast guy, but also can go up and high point the ball. Juju Smith-Schuster replacement over the middle, physical type of guy. So I mean that's there. But I mean, to quickly put into perspective what the Vikings, their kind of draft picks, they had Jordan Addison pick number 1. They had Mekhi Blackman back to USC. They had 2 USC guys in a row, which is a cornerback. but they didn't actually draft. They drafted cornerback, safety. They drafted corner in the third round, safety in the fourth, and nose tackle in the fifth. No edge rusher. No edge rusher.
Yeah, I mean, where is their edge rush coming from? Like,
no pressure. So, yeah, it's gonna. I mean, they're a team. They're gonna be like a 6-win team.
I'm telling you right now, I really think this is a team that's going to underperform this year.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins and never have been. And I don't feel like that defense is going to help him at all this year, which is going to rely all on him. Yeah, okay, don't be surprised if Justin Jefferson goes off next year because they're just going to have to keep throwing the ball.
Right.
Yeah, they've got themselves into an issue. Yeah.
And real quick, I mean, you have before we move on, Zadarius Smith with not a ton of defensive line help last year from the Vikings. He had 10 sacks, obviously, as we said. He had 3 forced fumbles. That's tied for 7th. His let's see here. He had 53 QB hurries. That's really good. Total pressure 78. And then in 2021, he was obviously injured, but in 2020, I think he had that breakout year where he had I'm trying to think here how many 13 sacks. Yeah, so it was 13 sacks. And that's now the year that he had 13 sacks, he was going behind the other Smith brother. Now you have one of the best edge rushers, like you said, I think, and with Myles Garrett. So I would expect him to get close to 10, maybe more. That's going to be a scary defense.
I think he could go 15 plus. I know that's bold, but like,
I
know that's bold, but when you think about Myles Garrett and the amount of strikes he demands, but I also want to say it's not like the Vikings had a pass rush last year. They only had 38 sacks. That's 4 more sacks than the Browns. They were still in the very much bottom part of the league in sack leaders.
No, he had no help.
Yeah, I don't like this move for the Vikings because I get it. They needed to get rid of Cap, but like this is a terrible move. Segueing into topic number 5, which is, if you're ready to go into it, this is probably one of those.
So how would you, because we never discussed this before, but do you want to go by this quicker or, I mean,
let's do
it. What do you want to do?
I say let's shoot off like 1 or 2 of our candidates for these next. So moving on to topic number 5, which is our very early offensive rookie, defensive rookie, and MVP predictions. We'll just tag team it. Who do you have as your early offensive rookie of the year?
You know, it's a little crazy to put Bijan Robinson as that guy, but my top 3 candidates would be Bijan Robinson. I want to say as a sleeper, I would say Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
And then I do want to do Jackson Smith-Njigba because here's the thing. Tyler Lockett isn't going to, I don't think he's going to play every single game. Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to get a lot of work, I think, out of the slot from the Seahawks. And that's a pretty air raid offense. But I'm going to say offensive rookie of the year. I'm projecting it right now, Bijan Robinson. I think all of the quarterbacks are just going to struggle. I really do think so. Bryce Young, I don't know. That's bold, but I'm gonna say Bijan Robinson earlier. For an earlier take. I love what he did. I can bring up the stats I have in previous shows, but it's incredible. So
yeah, and I figured you were gonna lean towards him. It's funny because you actually picked 2 of my players that I had also picked, and I was thinking as a third player, Smith-Njigba. So that's really ironic, but. Yeah, I mean, Bijan Robinson's a good pick here. He obviously has Tyler Algier, the running back drafted last year, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and a good offensive line behind Jake Matthews, Chris Lindstrom, and Matthew Bergeron, among others. I think the biggest thing for you that plays into this being a good pick of yours is the lack of a good QB may lend the Falcons to actually playing more of a run-style offense. Yeah. And when Arthur Smith fixes on an RB, they get a plethora of carries. And remember, he used to be the coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, and look what Derrick Henry did under him. So that's a good pick. My pick is actually dark horse, and then you just mentioned this, Anthony Richardson. And here's why.
Yeah.
He is surrounded by Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, and Josh Downs. Josh Downs is a speedy receiver. Michael Pittman's a big receiver over the middle. And then, of course, you've got Jonathan Taylor, who they can run as a bell cow, assuming he stays healthy. And last year was a little bit of an up and down year. He has Steichen as an offense coordinator. I still believe Shane Steichen is a big reason why Jalen Hurts was able to take a leap in year technically 2 as a starter. The thing about Steichen that's cool is Anthony Richardson has a lot of characters like Jalen Hurts. He's a bigger version. He's sort of like a mix between Lamar,
Right.
Jalen, and Cam Newton. And the biggest thing is, I still think this is a very, very winnable division, despite the Jags' success. Like, I'm not sold on the Jags being a top 3 team next year, and they also have the 4th easiest schedule. So my pick is Anthony Richardson. It's sort of a dark horse because I could also see him really struggle in year 1 because he's green. But that's my pick for our offensive rookie of the year. And I know we have a few comments in the chat.
Yeah. So Bebop Jones, thanks for joining. He's kind of becoming a regular. Celts Chronicles, haven't seen you in a while. We're gonna have to work out a show soon. Great 49ers content creator. Go check out his channel. And then Eagles coach is Screech Jr. Screech Jr.
I'm
Who
a
the hell
little
is that?
confused by that.
Screech Jr.
You
mean Trash Jr.? I agree.
Hey, I mean,
another guy I just mentioned him before, Rashee Rice.
yeah, that's
see with the Chiefs, they had a lot of turnover. They lost 2 of their best receivers in Mecole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster, and they're a very air raid offense. So my thing is like, who's going to pick up those targets? Obviously, we have Sky Moore, who's probably going to get a bigger role, but Rashee Rice could be another guy as well. Who for the Chiefs, who kind of steps up and has a surprisingly good year, and he is the best quarterback in the league. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a guy as well.
And we just got a comment, I think, explaining. Bebop Jones says DT just got sued to shreds. He's talking about Jalen Carter. I want to quickly say something about this. Carter's being sued right now for $40 million by the father of the son who lost his life. And it's a sad situation. Don't get me wrong. What Carter did was wrong. He was essentially instigating and was trying to probably encourage the racing. But the son was also this is a really tough situation. I'm not judging. I've talked about the character of Jalen Carter before. I'm not focusing anymore on this. This was a very not bold pick by the Eagles, but they knew the risk they were getting into. He's not getting suspended by the NFL, more than likely. This is a college issue. It's going to stay a college issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a real chance. I don't think he's going to collect that $40 million, but there's a real chance Jalen Carter loses some money off of this, and he should. I mean, this is just part of.
So
Bebop Jones asks, will he even see the field? Yeah, he's going to see the field.
And that's where I'm getting to. I think this is when you're such a talented team. The 49ers and the Eagles do this too.
Yep.
They draft guys for the future, not to play right away.
Yep.
And if you have the Eagles have an abundance of depth at that position, you have that type of depth. The Eagles are wanting him to play 2-3 years down the line. That's what the 49ers do too. Yep. I mean, you're going to get a day 1 starter, like one day 1 starter in the draft per year because your roster is just that good. So I don't think it's a concern.
I don't think he's a criminal, right?
It would be bad if it was like
if he was the one driving the vehicle, but the
woman beat or like a beater woman.
Yeah,
beater
if he was like domestic violence,
domestic violence. There we go. I couldn't find the word.
What he did was very stupid and should be punished. But there's a difference between racing in your car and instigating someone crashing,
or doing drugs, or smoking out of a bomb,
under the influence on drugs, and crashing the car yourself. Like
what's his name? The guy from the Raiders, Henry. Ruggs.
Like Henry Ruggs. Like I'm not letting Jalen Carter off the hook because what he did was very wrong. But I think people were raking him through the coals for a mistake that he did. And I don't want to focus on that because that's not the point of the show. But I think we should move on to
defensive rookie.
I'll give you my 2 picks, and it's funny we just talked about this guy, but I'm going to start with Devin Witherspoon. I feel like this is somewhat of a
love that pick
horse because Tariq Woolen did win Defensive Player of the Year last year, but Devin Witherspoon is playing with a group like Tariq Woolen, Jamal Adams, and they got better on the D line this year. Then the offense is getting better this year with Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf. Like this Seahawks team is going to be really, really good. And I think Devin Witherspoon could end up being the recipient of we're going to throw to you because Tariq Woolen's a good quarterback too. My other pick is, of course, the guy we just talked about, Jalen Carter. And the reason why is because this is not defensive player of the year. This is defensive rookie of the year. You don't need 15 sacks as a defensive tackle to win defensive player of the year, but he's playing behind a great secondary with Darius Slay, James Bradbury, and Avonte Maddox. They do have some issues at linebacker, but I still think they're going to address that this offseason. He's playing behind an elite defensive lineman with Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, and now Nolan Smith. You can also throw in Derek Barnett. Like, this is a very, very deep defensive line, and he's going to get a lot of playing time with Cox aging. So to answer your question or your statement, I don't think he's going to be a starter this year, but he's definitely going to get a lot of snaps. And if he doesn't get into, if the NFL doesn't punish him, which I don't think they will because it's an issue that occurred in college, but I could be wrong. I really think Jalen Carter is a potential shot, but my favorite here is Devin Witherspoon. So,
there's a lot of interesting ones because I thought about Emmanuel Forbes as kind of like a sleeper that the Commanders did. This guy really has nothing. He played in the best conference, put up amazing numbers, 40% completion rate when targeted, Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State. He played in the SEC. He played teams like Georgia, Alabama, like really good teams, and still just was a baller. The only thing with him is he's 160 pounds.
Yeah.
But with Emmanuel Forbes, if you get him in the weight room, get him on a really good diet, get him with an NFL trainer, he's going to put on weight. And I just think that he's a guy that fell just because of his weight, and he's really the best corner in the NFL. So Emmanuel Forbes is kind of my sleeper. If I had to pick another guy.
You think he's the best cornerback in the draft? That's bold.
What?
That's bold. You think he's the best cornerback in the draft?
Well, okay. I also really like Witherspoon. I'm not saying but I'm saying he is a top.
Sure.
Like he was drafted. I really like where they put him there. Another guy, I'm gonna say I don't really like Will Anderson, but he was drafted so high, and he's gonna get the production out of the Texans.
Yeah,
so
he is.
I'm gonna say Will Anderson as my defensive player of the year.
Yeah, that's fair.
MVP.
Yeah.
Let's quickly touch this real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I have a feeling it's always somebody. There's going to be a dark horse earlier in the year. Patrick Mahomes would be like the homer pick, but like, I don't want to do that because why? You go first with this one. I want to hear your answer.
So I have two players. Of course, one of them is going to be biased. It's Jalen Hurts. I'm going to be honest with you. From an offensive standpoint, they got better. The Eagles did not want to overpay on running back like the Vikings did with Dalvin Cook and a lot of other teams have. This offense got better with the additions of Rashad Penny at running back and DeAndre Swift after they lost Miles
Sanders. Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
That's the homer pick.
The O-line stayed the same for the most part, and the schedule is not easy. But the problem is the schedule is not easy. So here's my thing. That's not my pick. That's one of my people. Joe Burrow is probably my guy here. I would love to see Hurts win MVP, and I think he's going to be in the conversation again. I think he's going to be in the conversation for years to come, but Joe Burrow has the 17th hardest schedule, so it's middle of the pack. He still has Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, assuming he stays, on offense. And they bolstered their O-line with the addition of the offensive tackle from the Chiefs. And then they went out and drafted Myles Murphy, the defensive end from Clemson, and DJ Turner, the cornerback, to strengthen their defense. I think the Bengals actually made the right moves.
They did.
Joe Burrow. So, okay, as an Eagles fan, I really think I would like to say Jalen Hurts, but I really think Joe Burrow's got to be up there this year. So
here's the thing. Let's quickly do a sleeper. Trevor Lawrence.
They got
in the first round. They got the guy out of Oklahoma, the right tackle, kind of to replace the guy that they lost to the Chiefs, the right tackle that they Jawan Taylor, I think his name is.
Yeah.
That could be like an interesting and early running for sure. So I'm gonna say though mine is gonna be Patrick Mahomes again.
Okay.
I haven't had a ton of time to think about this, so.
Well, these are very early predictions because there's still so much of the offseason that could happen between players getting injured, them bringing in new players. Remember, like James Bradbury wasn't signed for the Eagles last year until, maybe it was end of May. It was a while. And of course, CJ Gardner-Johnson, a big portion of their good defense last year, wasn't brought in until like August. So
yeah. Hurts looked bad. 2021 year looked bad though. Yeah, but
if you watch football, there's a big difference in the way he played.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying AJ Brown. I'm leaving AJ Brown out of this, but I've been studying throwing motion over the last couple of months, and Hurts's throwing motion completely changed. He wasn't angling his shoulders. He was keeping them straight and flat. Yeah.
He wasn't flinging the ball as much, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm in the middle of having a coughing fit because I'm actually recovering from a cold, so I apologize.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, when you go to those, I mean, in the offseason, Trey Lance really is his form is looking better too. When you go to the offseason to one of those personal coaches is when you really learn your throwing motion.
I want to see this. Hold on a second. We got to play this one here. They lucked out last year. Brock got hurt last year. Blame it on your coach for putting a tight end on a defensive end. I'm not.
And we still didn't draft a right tackle.
Yeah, we got to go through all this. His comments. Bebop Jones.
I'll die with that thought. Yeah, sure I mean, I will too. I still think even though it was our coach's fault, I think it would have been a close game. It would have been a fun.
He's getting spicy in the comments. We got to address this.
We are betting number 2 betting favorites to make the playoffs this year.
I think they should be. I mean, the 49ers are a good team.
Wait. Because I know that like the NFL thing put out their win rate thingy, and we were like 4th behind the Eagles, Chiefs. No, we were 3rd. No, fourth.
You may say number 2 betting favorites in the NFC, maybe. But
yeah,
I don't know.
No, there's nowhere we're behind the Eagles.
So I do want to make a statement. Say
we do not have the easiest schedule.
Oh,
hell no.
Eagles had the easiest schedule last year. I do want to say this. You still got to beat teams in the playoffs. Like I don't care. Like they were, if it wouldn't have been for some suspect defensive coaching, they were up 24-14 in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to get into an argument here. This is fun. I'm enjoying this, but. The easiest schedule thing is, and I'm going to quickly touch on this because I think this is a really good way to end the show, but the easiest schedule thing is a little bit of a hocus pocus. And here's the reason why, because a good example is look at the Rams. Every team who was playing the Los Angeles Rams last year, if you look at strength of schedule, would have been a very hard team, right? And they ended up being an absolute dumpster fire. So the easiest schedule idea is sometimes a false idea because there are teams that completely fail the following year after doing really well.
Well, it was the 49ers schedule too last year, one of the hardest schedules. I mean, we had like the Buccaneers, the Chargers, all these.
And they turned out to be relatively easy.
It's a projection. It was the easiest schedule. So we do not have an easy schedule because at one point in our schedule, we play 3 road games and we have four home games or something. It's so weird.
The Eagles start the season playing 4 of the first 6 games on the road. That's also tough. Now they're not.
Yeah, I think we don't have a home game till. I think we have. Okay, I could look it up real quick.
Yeah, as we tee off the show, I'll tell you. I'll first focus on my favorite or my matchup I'm most looking forward to for the Eagles. My matchup that I'm most looking forward to the Eagles this year is the 49ers Eagles game. I really like it. I like the ability to say, you know what, these are 2 of the best teams in the NFC. In fact, I would say right now these are the 2 best teams in the NFC. And I'm not disrespecting another team, but I just feel like they both are going to be back there. 49ers have a big question at QB to answer. The Eagles have a big question as the Super Bowl team. Can they go and be relevant? It's tough as a team that's been in the Super Bowl. But yeah, this is really, really fun. And that's the team I'm looking most forward to playing. What's your matchup you're looking most forward to this season for the 49ers?
There's a lot of good ones, but real quick to Bebop's whatever. I mean, we have Bengals, Jags, Eagles, and then we have Ravens. That's the team that you can't sleep on. Cowboys, Giants.
That's tough. These are tough games.
So, I mean, nobody's super hard. But anyways, my top matchup, you said the Eagles 49ers, right? Yeah. I mean, I would say 49ers Bengals. That's a good. Last time they played, it went into overtime. That's a game that it's in the middle of the season. Out of all the hard teams, we're gonna have to win some of them, and that would be as a 49ers fan, that's gonna be one that would make me stoked. To win.
That's also gonna be really exciting. This has been really, really
Or the
fun.
40. I mean, the 49ers Seahawks Thanksgiving game. You can't sleep over either. That's going to be a frick ton of fun,
Yeah,
man.
that is gonna be a lot of fun.
So
Well,
let's
this has been
see.
fun having you on here.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing the joint stream with me, guys. Again, this is being episode 11, the Great Sports Meltdown. You can also find it on Benjamin Kamperman, the Camper Reports episode, on his YouTube channel, the NFL Schedule Breakdown. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you for commenting. This has been really, really fun. Bebop Jones says he's going to be there with his Della Sanders cheesesteak.
Wow.
Yeah, Della Sanders is off the charts. Cheesesteak period are off the charts. I am also planning on trying to make a trip up. I don't think I'm going to be there for the 49ers Eagles game, but yeah, this is going to be really fun. And like I said, guys, thanks for tuning in. You can find this show tomorrow live on Spotify and Apple Podcasts on the Long Jawn Podcast. It'll also go straight live to YouTube on the Long Jawn Pod. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at the Long Jawn Podcast. Twitter is at the Long Jawn Pod, and you can also find me on TikTok at the Long Jawn Podcast. Benjamin, tell us where we can find you.
The Camper Report on YouTube, and then if you want to go follow me on Twitter, it should be in the description at Camper1 Report. But also just type in Benjamin Kamperman on your search bar, and you should come up with it, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I mean, we talked everything: NBA, excuse me, NBA, NFL. So if you're an NFL fan, we have that. If you're an NBA fan, we have that. If you're both, we have everything. We had everything. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be posting these. I'll be making chapters after this show ends, and then I'll be posting the clips throughout the week. So stay tuned.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.